Daivena sadhitam tasya Shamalam Niraye Puman Shamalam Niraye Puman Bhungte Kutumba Poshasya Bhungte Kutumba Poshasya Hrita Vita Ivaturaha Hrita Vita Ivaturaha Daivena Sadhitam Tasya Shamalam Niraye Puman Bhungte Kudumba Poshasya Hrida Vita Ivaturaha Daivena Sadhitam Tasya Shamalam Niraye Puman Bhungte Kutumba Poshasya Hrita Vita Ivaturaha Ida Veda Ivaturaha Daivena Sadhitam Tasya Shamalam Niraye Puman Bhungte Kudumba Poshasya Hrida Vita Ivaturaha Daivena Sadhitam Tasya Shamalam Niraye Puman Bhungte Kutumba Poshasya Hrida Vita Ivatura Daivena Sadhitam Tasya Shamalam Niraye Puman Bhungte Kudumba Poshasya Hrida Vita Ivaturaha Daivena, by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Asaditam, obtain Tasya, his Shamalam, sinful reaction, Niraye, in a hellish condition, Puman, the man, Bhungte, undergoes, Kutumba Poshasya, of maintaining a family, Hrita Vitaha, one whose wealth is lost, Eva, like Aturaha, suffering. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thus, by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maintainer of kinsmen is put into a hellish condition to suffer for his sinful activities, like a man who has lost his wealth. Please repeat after me. Thus, by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the maintainer of kinsmen is put into a hellish condition to suffer for his sinful activities, like a man who has lost his wealth. Purport: the example set herein is that the sinful person suffers just like a man who has lost his wealth. The human form of body is achieved by the conditioned soul after many, many births and is a very valuable asset. Instead of utilizing this life to get liberation, if one uses it simply for the purpose of maintaining his so-called family and therefore performs foolish and unauthorized action, he is compared to a man who has lost his wealth and who, upon losing it, laments. When wealth is lost, there is no use lamenting. But as long as there is wealth, one has to utilize it properly and thereby gain eternal profit. It may be urged that when a man lives his money earned by sinful activities, he also leaves his sinful activities here with his money. But it is especially mentioned herein that by superior arrangement, daivena saditham, although the man lives behind him his sinfully earned money, he carries the effect of it. When a man steals some money, if he is caught and agrees to return it, he is not freed from the criminal punishment. By the law of state, even though he returns the money, he has to undergo the punishment. Similarly, the money earned by a criminal process may be left by the man when dying, but by superior arrangement, he carries with him the effect, and therefore he has to suffer hellish life. Om Ajnanat Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Litamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaham Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shida Pada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Scha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prasharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshadharine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhibhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurati Se Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes to the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Mukham karoti vatsalam bhango langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru dinatarinam. Thavai vasmi, na jivami thavai vina, idhi vidya devitva naimam charanantikam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to this morning's Bhagavatam class. I'm sure everyone is tired after 2 days of fasting and a lot of service. I'm a bit myself, a bit in the clouds, so tolerate me. This morning it was nice to see the Mataji's enacted the pastime of Krishna giving sari to Draupadi. So nowadays, nowadays you don't need a Dushashan, they show up naked. Anyways, Daiva Shodhitam, the first word used, Daiva Shodhitam, the expert supervision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nothing happens by chance, as the material scientists or karmis say that everything just happens by chance. But nothing happens by chance. Everything happens by Daiva Shodhitam, or by expert supervision of the Lord. There are two verses in Bhagavad Gita which reflects the same point. Maya dakshena prakriti suyatecha characharam hetunanena kaunteya jagat vipravartate. Chapter 9, text 10, I think. Maya adakshena prakriti. Adaksha means eyes. Aksha means eyes. Akshaja, we say Padmakshi or Akshaja. Aksha means eyes. So, Maya dakshena, by my supreme supervision, under my eyes, everything happens. These universes get created and destroyed. It's all happening by my expert supervision. So, even the creation, destruction of these universes happens by the Lord's supervision. So, nothing happens without the Lord's supervision. There's another verse again in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 14, I think. Daivi hiesha prakriti mama maya duratyaya. Daivi prakriti, my material nature. Through her agency, I'm controlling this the world through the agency of the three natures, Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. So everything happens by the direct supervision of the Lord, not indirect. Direct supervision. He doesn't say indirect supervision. It's indirectly managed, but directly supervised. The Lord is actually supervising every single activity of this world. So nothing gets unsupervised or happens without the Lord's permission. Doesn't matter how good it is or how really bad it is. It's all happening, the direct supervision of the Lord. Excuse me, I'm still dehydrated from Janmashtami. So thirsty. I've been drinking like gallons of water. Yeah, direct supervision of the Lord. Here, Prabhupada refers to, in his purport, about thieves. How does a thief work? A thief assumes that nobody is watching. That's how you steal something. When nobody is watching, you steal. In India, they say traditionally the thieves are active between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. That's when people are deep sleep. That's the time when people are deep sleep. So the thieves know if they break in during that time, a little bit of noise here and there, people don't wake up because they are deep in sleep. Of course, that wouldn't work in Vaishnava communities because the pujari is already awake by 2:30, 3 o'clock, and devotees are getting up to come to Mangalarati. That wouldn't happen for devotees. But for general materialists, that's when they are deep at sleep. So the thieves are very active during that time. So what it means? So the thieves are acting with an understanding that nobody is watching, or the people who are responsible is sleeping. Even petty thieves like people who pickpocket and things like that. They do their tricks when people are distracted. If there is a show going on, or if they're talking to somebody, when they're distracted, they steal your wallet with understanding that nobody is watching. Same thing, we can extend the same thing to everyone materially inclined. Now everybody is thinking, nobody is watching, so I accumulate as much wealth I can, by hook or crook, I'll cheat this person, I'll cheat that person, nobody will notice, there's no, as long as I keep it, if the government doesn't notice, and I can get away, and I can just get away by accumulating wealth, or I will use the government regulations in my favor and then accumulate money by stealing. It's a similar principle. People also is accumulating wealth with understanding is nobody is watching. I can get away. There's no supervision. I can get away. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna actually expands this. Even he goes further. What to speak of just materialistic people who do not believe in God, who don't have a concept of God, or conveniently choose not to have the concept of God, and then they can accumulate as much as wealth they can. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna goes even a step further. From verses starting from 3.9 till 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. These 5 verses, Krishna goes further, a step further, starting from the verse Yagyata Karmano Niyatra Lokoyam Karma Bandhana Datum Karma Kauntaya Mukta Sangha Samacharaha. That the yagya should be performed, or activity should be performed as a sacrifice to me. If it is performed as a sacrifice to me, there is no binding. Mukta Sangha Samachara, you're not bound. But on the other way around, if you perform activities not as a sacrifice to me, but just for your own satisfaction, then you're bound. You're bound. Yeah. Here he is talking about not just any activities, he is talking about regulated activities. These are the verses which describes about karma yoga. He's talking about karma yoga. Even karma yoga, if you perform without a sacrifice to me, it is binding. And of course, by definition, karma yoga means in relation to Krishna, but he just wants to emphasize the point. In the next verse, he says Sahayagya. I don't know the full verse. The first word I remember. Sahayagya. Sahayagya means, for when I created this material world, I sent living entities and the human beings and the demigods, and whatever desires they have, I've given Sahayagya. Along with sending you, I also sent Yagya, which is himself. Sent Yagya, so that by performing Yagya, you can benefit or you can realize all your desires. So Krishna is actually giving an opportunity for you to be happy. Of course, we took birth in this material world with understanding. What happened to my gobble? Come on, ladies. Where was I? Yeah. So it says in Bhagavad Gita, look, you decided to enjoy, and I'm sending you to this material world to enjoy, and also I'm giving you the mechanism to enjoy. The mechanism is Sahayagya, the process of Yagya. I'm giving the process. You follow this process. And the next verse he says, just because I gave the process, it doesn't mean that you can just enjoy selfishly. The process is you have to offer the results of this yagya to me, or me who is situated in the heart of the demigods. And then it creates a cycle. So you perform yagya, the benefits are generated, you offer the benefits, the results of the benefits to me, or me who is situated in the heart of the demigods. By doing that, the demigods become satisfied and they produce the necessary ingredients for you to produce or to perform more yagya. They give you sunshine, enough rain, the sun regulates rain, and the moon helps vegetables to grow and also gives juice or taste in the vegetables. In traditional agriculture, they used to plant vegetables based on the moon cycle. When they used to plant during Amavasya, the new moon. And then as the moon grows, by its gravity, it will pull this sapling from the seed. So the moon is responsible to help the seedling grow, vegetables, especially vegetables and fruits. And as it matures, as the moon matures, it also builds nourishment. The full moon nourishes the vegetable. The strength from the vegetable is coming from moon. And the moon is giving the nourishment, the juice. I think the moon hasn't working for a long time now, because nowadays the vegetables have no taste whatsoever. But yeah, the taste in vegetables, the rasa in vegetables comes from moon. So the demigods provide all the ingredients for the yagya. So a cycle is set up. You perform yagya, you offer to the demigods returns, and you perform more yagya. And then in 13, verse 13, he says, Yagya Shishchashino Shanto Muchanti Sarva Kilbisham Bunjatete Yagam Papam E Pachanti Atmamaya. By this process, the remnants of this cycle you consume, which is offered to me. By consuming this, I will remove all the impediments for you to perform this karma yoga without impediments. So it's a system what Krishna sets up with an understanding that we offer the benefits to him. And I guess it's verse 14 or 13. 13 is the one. I guess it's 12, I think. He uses the word sthanaha. It means if you don't do this offering and just consume it, you're considered a sthanaha. Sthana means a thief. You're considered as a thief. So we saw a labeled thief stealing. That's considered, he's a thief. And then the materialistic people, they are also stealing without, ignoring the presence of God. They just accumulate, ignoring God. And what to speak of these two characters, even people who are performing the yagya, but if they don't offer the results, Krishna calls them also thieves. Krishna calls them also thieves. So that's why in his pastime, when he was herding cows with his friends in the outskirts of Vrindavan, he came across some brahmanas, and he's a yagyapati. He's the ultimate benefactor of the yagyas, and they don't give him the remnants of the yagya. So he gets upset. He ignores and says, "Okay, ignore these guys. Let them just be engaged in their Brahmanical activity or so-called yagya. Go and approach the wives of the brahmanas." And then the wives of the brahmanas were delighted to give everything they have, and they are glorified in Bhagavatam because they understand the essence that Krishna is the ultimate benefactor of Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. He is the ultimate benefactor of all the yagyas, all the yagyas. So this particular verse and verses around this in this chapter describes about people, sinful people who are considered as thieves. The root word sin, the root for the word sin comes from archery. Did I say the word right? Archery? Is it archery? Archery? Where are some good English speakers? Archery. So the root word for the word sin comes from archery, where if you miss the target, it was considered a sin. The term was sin, and that was used, then it became incorporated into the sin, definition of sin, what we know. It means if you miss the target, if you're shooting the arrows and it's not on the, they have this round thing, if you're not shooting in the middle, if you're missing it, in the sports term it's called a sin. And that's when, it means you miss the target. Similarly, in the purport Prabhupada is saying, the target of a human form of life is to attain liberation. To get out of this conditioned life. But if a living entity misses the target, and is engaged in other activities. In other activities. Generally, in the Western world especially, any piety means looking after the family. That's called piety. I used to, I don't know if it's an appropriate example, there was a series of Vin Diesel movies made, Fast and Furious series. They're robbers and they steal cars and this and that. But they always finish, it's all for the family. The finishing statement of the movie, they're all sitting together on the table. The family comes first. So from one thing, especially the Western, that's why you see this Christmas table and it's family. Every family comes in and we butcher a turkey or whatever. So mundane piety is all about family. Just looking at the family is such an important thing. But this purport Prabhupada says, even if a person looks after his family and misses his target of getting out of this material world, he is leading a sinful life. And not just leading a sinful life, he's going to suffer, terribly. There's a few verses before this verse explains the way how a person is suffering because he was looking after the family, the needs of the family, without focusing on the real goal of life. This looking after the family is done by every other living entities with a little bit of consciousness. So human beings, of course I'm not telling you should not look after the families. Their sense is on top of looking after the family, you also have to focus on your own salvation. The famous pastime of Indra. Indra is notorious. He's always doing something notorious and getting cursed. He's always meddling with the sadhus, performing austerity, and they get upset and they curse him. So in one of those situations, I don't know the real reason behind it, one of the situations he gets cursed and he becomes a pig. He becomes a pig. And pigs generally have a big family. They have a huge family they have. They're not alone. There's generally 10, 20 piglets running around. There's a huge family. And he was happily being the head of the family, a breadwinner for the big family, a stool winner for the family. And he was very happily situated looking after his family. And then his time of curse ran out. But he didn't want to go back to his position as Indra. And he was happily maintaining his family as a lead pig. And Brahma came and told him, get out. And he didn't want. He said, look, I have my family duties. I have to look after. Brahma got really upset and he chopped his head off right then and there. And then Indra was liberated from the pig's body. The modern animal rights people might think, oh, Brahma is abusing the animals. They will report him to RSPCA. Is it RSPCA or something like that? But when you think from a different perspective, Brahma is not abusing the pig, he's actually liberating Indra from being in a pig's life, so that he can go back to being in his position and running the affairs of the heavenly planets. So you can see the attachment. Even Indra thinks that as a pig, he thinks that he has to maintain his family and forgets his real position, or his semi-real position. Same thing as living entities. We put so much effort in maintaining the family. You go and talk to preachers, you go and talk to men, family men, and they say, oh no, or just my children are young, I should focus making money, and when they become old, then I will retire and take up devotional service. That's the usual response they give. And when we go and approach them when the sons are started making money, they say, oh, no, I would just wait to make sure they get married. They get married. And then when they get married, you say, no, they just got grandchildren. They're the young couple. They don't know how to look after the grandchildren. I need to be here, help out, support them. And so they keep coming up with this excuses. They don't ever want to give up the family attachment. I mean, we're not telling them to completely give up. We're just telling, take up Krishna conscious. Just look after your family. Okay. But at the same time, do devotional service. No, they're not interested. And these verses explains what happens to them when they ignore the goal of life and focus solely on maintaining the family. We can discuss a couple of stories how some of the famous thieves who become Vaishnavas in line with similar to the theme. We have heard of the story of Valmiki. I don't know how authentic it is, but anyway, it kind of is in line with the mood of what we are speaking. So I will tell the story. Authenticity, I don't know. Somebody experts can confirm it. Valmiki, he was born as Ratnakara, and he was born to a Brahmin family. Whatever I read, I think it's in Agni Puran, that he was born as a child in a Brahmin family, and at one point his kingdom was affected by drought and famine, so there was no food to eat. So to support the family, he became a dacoit. So he used to rob the caravans which go through the forest. So he used to stop them, kill the own merchant, and steal their money. And that's how he was maintaining his family. He was supporting his family. And then this was going on for a long time. I don't know if the famine stopped, but he kept doing stealing. And once he saw Narada Muni taking the path, and Narada Muni goes everywhere. He doesn't discriminate. So he happened to go through this path, and Ratnakara saw Narada Muni, and of course Narada Muni is very effulgent. With the pictures what we see Narada Muni, he looks very simple. You don't see him with a lot of jewels or anything. He comes across quite simple. Well, I don't know, but good fortune of Ratnakara, he decided to steal from Narada. And probably want to take his veena, I don't know. What does Narada Muni have done? Unless Ratnakara was really desperate. So he wanted to, he stopped Narada on his way and he said, give whatever you got. And of course Narada is compassionate to every living entity. He is not partial, he is compassionate to every living entity. So when Ratnakara asked Narada to give everything, he said, look, I'm happy to give everything I have, but answer a question. He said, sure, yeah. And he asked, why are you doing this? And he says, look, I'm a head of the family, I have a wife and children, and there's famine in the country, they're starving, so I had to feed them. So it's my duty as the head of the house to feed my family. And I said, okay, that sounds good. Answer me another question. He says, Narada asks another question. He says, yeah. So you're stealing, naturally, this is considered a sinful activity. So you're going to acquire some sins because you're stealing and killing people. And Ratnakara says, yeah, makes sense. So when you take the loot and distribute to your family, an extended family, do you think they will take the portion of your sins? And he said, yeah, sure, they will. And he said, are you sure? And he said, yeah. So Narada says, why don't you go and confirm with your wife and your extended family if they're going to take? Otherwise, you're just acquiring sins. And Ratnakara thinks, I think Narada is tricking me. So if I go and ask the family, he can run away. And he's tricking me. He said, no, don't play these tricks. I know for sure they are going to take the share of my sins because they are taking the share of my earning. Now this is, okay, you tie me up in this tree and then go and check. So there's no chance that I will run away. And Ratnakara agrees. And he says, okay, I will tie you up. So he firmly ties Narada Muni to a tree, as if Narada Muni is can be bound to a tree. And then Ratnakara goes to his village and he approaches his wife and he says, look, this is what happened. The wife asks, how was your day? They say the dinner table, and how was your day? And Ratnakara says, oh, my day, I came across this person, he was playing this veena, and he said something about you guys sharing the sins. And the wife says, no. We're not sharing our sins. It is your duty to provide for us. So, we are your subordinates. You are the one doing the sinful activities. We don't take the sins. Okay, you're shocked. His own wife says no, refuses. Then he goes and asks his elder son. And the elder son also says the same thing. We are all dependent on you. It's your duty to provide us. How you earn that money, we don't care. But we are not responsible for the sins. But we are happy to enjoy your earnings. And similarly, Ratnakara asks his extended family, his brothers and cousins and nephews, and they all say the same thing. And he immediately is completely shocked. I gave up my Brahminical activities and I've taken this sinful medium of survival so that I can maintain these family members who are very near and dear to me. And they are telling they're not going to share my sinful reaction. I was very astonished. And then the penny dropped. He says, yeah, it's not worth maintaining somebody who's not going to suffer with me. So I'm going to go and see the sadhu, what he got to say. So he goes back to Narada Muni. And then the Narada Muni instructs, yes, nobody would share your sin. Whatever you committed, you have to suffer by yourself. So Ratnakara understands this precarious situation because he's been doing this for a long time and thought there is no consequence. Now he understands there's a consequence, and this consequence is not shared by anyone. He has to suffer all alone. So he asks Narada to rescue him. So Narada says what Sankirtan devotees say, chant Krishna's name or chant Rama's name. And by chanting Rama's name, you'll be purified of all your sinful activities. But Ratnakara was so sinful, his tongue is not able or capable to chant Rama's name. He was so sinful. He could not utter the two syllables Rama. So Narada has to come up with a different technique, a different solution to help out Ratnakara. So he says, okay, what do you like doing? Oh, I like killing. That's what I like doing. If you could have said, I like rasgullas, you could have given him rasgullas or gulab jamuns. No, he said, I like killing. And Narada Muni says, okay, killing in Sanskrit means mara, kill. Say, okay, just keep chanting your favorite pastime, activity, a sport, mara. So Ratnakara starts chanting mara. As he chants mara, 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 it becomes Rama. So there's Namabas coming in. Even by mistake, if one chants Krishna's name, it purifies him of all sinful activities from Harinam Chintamani. So, similarly, here by chanting Rama's name in reverse, the sinful reactions, what Ratnakara accumulated, slowly disappeared. And he became so saintly that he just sat in a place and chanted Ram's name for thousands of years. And while he sat and chanted, ant hill built around him because he was just sitting and chanting. Ant built a nest around him. And then when eventually Narada came back again to check on his disciple, he couldn't find him, he just found the ant hill. And we asked for Ratnakara, he came out of the ant hill. So a person who appears from an ant hill is called Valmiki. The name Valmiki comes from somebody who appears from an ant hill. So he came out from an ant hill, so he's called Valmiki. So Narada was very happy to see him, and he asked Valmiki to compile Ramayana. And it is said that the legend says that the Ramayana was complete even before Ram appeared. So Valmiki had the foresight to see the activities of Ram, and he compiled. And again, I don't know how authentic the story is, but it kind of in line with what we are talking, that sinful activities accumulated for earning money, none of the family members want to share. That's the story of Valmiki. Of course, he became a great saint, and he gave shelter to Mother Sita and her children, and he is glorified as the first poet who recited Ramayana because of the mercy of Narada Muni or the Sankirtan devotees. Even a hellish person can be saved. There is also a similar pastime in Sri Vaishnava school. There's 11 prominent Arvas, saintly person who are considered the propounders of the Sri Vaishnava philosophy. And the last one, his name is Tirumangayarva. Tirumangayarva is a very frivolous character, and if you read his pastime, it's quite nice. He is considered the incarnation of Nandaka, the sword of the Lord. The sword of the Lord appeared as Nandaka. Nandaka appeared as Tirumangayarva. Tirumangayarva was born as a son of one of the army chiefs of the local king, the Chola kings, and he was trained in warfare, and he was engaged in as a soldier fighting for the king and all. And then he saw this beautiful girl, Kumadavali? Is her name? You know? Anyway, it's a South Indian name. So he saw this beautiful girl, and he wanted to marry her. And the girl's father was a Vaishnava, was a devotee of Lord Vishnu. And he said, well, if you want to marry my daughter, you have to promise me that you feed 1,000 people every day prasadam. 1,000 people prasadam every day. And out of enthusiasm to marry this girl, he said, yeah, I'll promise I will feed 1,000 people, 1,000 sadhus prasadam every day. And then he married her. But he couldn't keep up. He couldn't maintain the vow of feeding 1,000 people, because 1,000 people is a lot of prasadam. Those days there was no Food for Life program. People collecting money for that, and he was collecting himself. So what he decided to steal. he decided to steal. In those days, the Jains are businessmen. The atheistic class of people, and they were businessmen, and they had trade routes all over India. Even now, if you go to certain places, they have like free food. Dharmashala near Udupi and Dharmashala up north, they have these places where they used to distribute food set up by Jains to feed the merchants, who are passing through the tracks. So Tirumangayarwa, in his previous ashram, he decided to rob these Jain merchants and then take the money and feed the Vaishnavas. And he kept doing this, and this was his role. He was a thief in the night time, and in the daytime he was a saintly person feeding people. And eventually, building the Srirangam temple was given to him to take over. And Srirangam temple, if you've been there, it's a really big temple. It's like 7 boundary walls. It's huge, like 25 acres or something. It's a huge temple. So, being the local sadhu in the daytime feeding people, they thought, he can build the temple, so they gave him the temple to build. And he kept building the temple in the daytime and stealing money at night. So one of his escapades, he was robbing this new wedding parade. After the marriage happened, the bride and groom were going back to the groom's place. So he arrested the party and he wanted to steal. Because weddings usually because there's dowry involved traditionally. So the groom should be having a lot of jewelry, and the women is all, the bride is all with a lot of gold. So it was it's a good loot. In weddings, when you're doing the wedding, so the bride wears a toe ring as a symbol that she is married. I don't know if current devotees wear toe rings. It's considered a symbol of that the woman is now married. So nobody would look at her, otherwise. Generally and traditionally, men don't look at women's face. They only look at her feet out of respect. Like, for example, Lakshman never looked at Sita's face. Even though they all went to the forest, spent 12 years, just 3 of us, he never looked at her face, not even once. He only saw her feet. He only knows how her feet looks. So traditionally, men never looked at a woman's face. They always looked at the feet. And even if they have lusty desires, and they look at the feet, and if there is toe ring, they know this woman is married, and they will forbade from cultivating any desire for her. So there is the importance of wearing toe ring. And traditionally, men also used to wear toe rings during the wedding ceremony. They won't keep it all the time, but only during the wedding ceremony, part of the ceremony, proper ceremony. Nowadays, they don't follow the practice. Traditional people do it. You do it in your house? Yeah, men also wear. Men also used to wear. Yeah, so it's worn by the men. The groom puts it on. I'm doing a wedding in 2 weeks' time, so I'm just bringing this all back to my memory. The groom puts it on the bride's toes gives the symbol, and the bride's brother puts it on the groom's toes with the notion that you are suitable to marry my sister. So that's a tradition. So similarly, this groom was also was wearing the toe ring. The toe rings are made in silver. They don't make it in gold because gold should not touch your feet. So they make it in silver. So Tirumangayarwa, I can't go on somewhere else. Tirumangayarwa was trying to remove this silver toe ring from the groom's feet, and it wasn't coming out. And he's an expert thief, he knows how to remove jewelry from people. So in this instant, he tries every trick, it's not coming up. Then he realizes the groom is none other than the Lord himself. Ranganath has come in the form of a groom, and his consort Lakshmi, Padmavati, no, it's not Padmavati, what's her consort in Srirangam? Anyway, Lakshmi comes as the groom, as the bride. So he understood, and then he pays obeisances, and then he recites a poem stating that you come, even though I become such a low-class person as a thief and pretending to be a saint in the daytime, you have come to rescue me, my Lord. So you never forsake your devotees, even if you have fallen. So he recites this beautiful poem. And then Trimangarava becomes a glorious saint, and he establishes most of the temples. So Srirangam temple, the initial foundation was built with stolen money. I'm not telling you guys to build a temple by stealing. The devotees of the Lord, they can do intimate pastimes like that. Sinful, materialistic people, and there are who are thieves, and there are also devotees who are thieves, who enact various pastimes to establish the Lord's glories. Anyway, I'll stop here. It's now some nice stories. If you have any questions, comments, fire away. Oh, it's continue. No, Daiva Sadhita means divine supervision. It just means divine supervision. The divine supervision can, if you are engaged in sinful activities, divine supervision is putting you to hellish conditions. Divine supervision for devotees means the Lord looks after them and brings them back to Godhead. So it's just divine supervision, direct divine supervision. It's called Daiva Choditam. It's a very nice word which is repeated in Bhagavatam many times. And if you just search for that word, Daiva Choditam, it's just a different version of the same word. Daiva Choditam, Daivena Asidatam. So it's a similar word. It means direct supervision, or the hand of the Lord, or direct agency of the Lord.
How does the Lord act things like non-human beings, for example, an animal?
Yeah.
Does it still supervise the activities?
Well, animals don't do sinful activities. Yeah, animals don't do sinful activities. Only humans do sinful activities. Animals do their prescribed activities. A tiger, its prescribed activity is to eat. It's a carnivore. Its activity is to hunt and eat. It won't eat anything else. It won't eat grass. It won't go out from that activities prescribed to it. Doesn't matter if it is even starving. Lion might be starving, not getting the prey, but it won't eat. It will only hunt and eat. It won't even eat leftover carcasses, like rotting carcasses, like the vultures or hyenas eat. They eat only what they hunt, or what they hunt and kept, and nothing running. So the activities prescribed for animals, they do not deviate. The activities left for human beings is to perform yagya. It's to perform yagya. But we, because of our little intelligence, so-called intelligence, that's what my offering was yesterday, we tend to do all nefarious activities, apart from doing the yagya. So that's why we acquire sin. Animals don't. So the tiger, after it dies, will go to whatever the next is, whatever the next is. And I guess Prabhupada said human beings generally take birth after being a tiger, a monkey, or a cow. These are some of the roots what human beings come to, the soul comes to the human body. One of them Prabhupada mentioned is tiger, I think. Don't quote me on it, you can look it up in Wikipedia or what is the database. Yeah, so they don't do sinful activities. No, but it is. They are also supervised. The animals are also supervised in the sense when they die, the soul is transported to the next body. That happens. That doesn't happen by chance. That happens by the Lord's supervision. So whatever the next designated body is, the tiger, the next designated body is a human being. In that direct supervision of the Lord, being present as a Paramatma, He supervises that transmigration of the soul. So that's what Prabhupada said, death means getting a new body, that's what death means. So that transfer of body is supervised by the Lord. And whatever the prescribed activities for the soul in that particular body is also given as intelligence by the super soul. And all the living animal entities, apart from human beings, follow it strictly. Only the human beings misuse it. And then they get rewarded or punished depending on how they misuse their free will. Make sense? I should be asking him questions. What happens? The world gets purified and we all go back to God, hopefully. That's what happens. The ingredients of the yagya are all purified. We purify the yagya. The spoon, the Shuk and Shua is called Yagya Varaha. And the fire has a particular name, depending on the ceremony you do, a particular fire is invited. So there's a personification of that fire. The ghee pot is the personification of Lakshmi. So I don't know how vegans are going to do yagya. They're all purified. That's why you install the Varuna Kalasha, and the water from the Varuna is used for purifying. The paraphernalia of a Sankirtana Yagya is what Krishna is. Krishna Sankirtana. What is that? Was Sango Pangasta Parshada. Krishna, help me out, boys. What is that verse? Krishna Varnam Tushar Krishnam, Sango Pangasta Parshadam. What is Yagya Sankirtana? Yajante Sumedha Saha. So the paraphernalias or the weapons of the Yagya, the Sankirtan Yagya is his associates. His associates are Nityananda Prabhu. His associate is Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, and Srivas Acharya, and all the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas. These are the weapons, or the paraphernalia of Sankirtan Yagya, and they come and destroyed the sinful, or at least in my case, still destroying the sinful nature of the living entities throughout the world. Yesterday we glorified Prabhupada. He went abroad, not just India, he went even abroad and took the Sankirtan movement with him and liberated the whole world. So yeah, that's the paraphernalia used by Sankirtan devotees. The Panchatattva are the paraphernalias. They are the one who is doing the real preaching. We are just the instrument, and they are purifying the hearts of people. You know, and when devotees join, they are all sent by the Panchatattva. We are just the instrument. Now we think, oh, we make devotees. No, we are instruments in making devotees. They are the ones making devotees, and they come, so we be respectful to them, because it's all made by Mahaprabhu. I don't know, is that the question? Did I answer to that? Okay. Alright, any other questions, comments? No? All good? Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki? Srila Prabhupada ki? Jai Go Premanande, Hari Bo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarusha kripa siddhavesha bhaktitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha.